Hey friends, welcome to another Wolverine video. This is me editing my video and realizing that I didn't give you a complete list of supplies that you'll need for soap making. So here it is. You will need a silicone soap mold or some sort of soap mold. You'll need 33 ounces of organic coconut oil, 4 ounces of sodium hydroxide or lye, 9 ounces by weight of water. You'll need a container in which to mix your lye solution and a pan used specifically for soap making that you don't use for anything else, a spatula to mix your oil with, an immersion blender, or you can use a spatula if you want to stir forever to mix the two solutions together. You'll need a digital scale, a digital thermometer, gloves, goggles, and an apron, as well as a towel to tuck your soap in with. You'll need essential oils of your choosing, and if you want, you can add oats, coffee, flower petals, or anything you want coloring to your soap. This is a very basic soap solution recipe. It's only one oil and it's 20% super fat. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments section, and I'm sure I'll be doing another video like this in the near future, so enjoy. Hey friends, and welcome to another Wolverine video. In this video, I will be making coconut oil soap. The first step to soap making is to gather all of your ingredients. For this recipe, you will need 33 ounces of organic coconut oil, 4 ounces of sodium hydroxide or lye, and 9 ounces of water. When you make soap, everything is measured by weight instead of volume, so you'll also need a digital scale, some containers to put your ingredients into, and a pan that is specifically used for soap making and nothing else. You'll also need something to stir with, and safety goggles, gloves, and a protective apron for when you're working with the lye. Lye is a very caustic chemical, so you need to be extremely careful when using this. If you're making soap with your children, make sure that you do the lye part yourself because it can cause severe injuries. So as you can see, I'm just measuring out the coconut oil here. My scale only goes up to 10 ounces, so I had to do 10 ounces 3 times and 3 ounces once. Again, you use 33 ounces of organic coconut oil for this soap recipe, and it's the only oil that I use in this soap recipe, so you don't have to add any extra oils. For those of you who are interested in the super fat percentages and know what that is, the super fat percentage of this soap is 20%. So it's a little bit extra oil to make sure that it's not too drying, because as a lot of us know, coconut oil soap can be drying because it just works so well. So an extra 20% super fat definitely makes a huge difference in the consistency and efficacy of this soap. After you've measured out all of the coconut oil, you're just going to put it into a pan and allow that to melt as you work on the lye solution. So you want to put it on the stove in the pan that you're using specifically for soap making on medium-low heat until it's liquefied. And while that's getting melted, you can work on measuring out your water and your lye. Now you're going to measure out 9 ounces by weight of water. So I'm just pouring in the water here and measuring it. When it gets as close to 9 ounces as possible, then we're good. I actually poured a little bit extra, had to take some out, but that's just part of the process sometimes. So make sure that you get as close to exact numbers as possible so that you get the best consistent results for your soap. After you measure out the water, you'll be working with the lye, so it's time to suit up. Make sure you have goggles, gloves, and an apron. In this recipe, we'll be using exactly 4 ounces of sodium hydroxide or lye. I use the pelletized lye because it doesn't create dust when you're pouring it. So here I'm just going to measure as close as I can get to exactly 4 ounces of lye, and then I will add this lye into the water. Never add water into lye, it will explode. It is extremely caustic and dangerous. So when you go to combine your ingredients, you're going to add the lye to the water. I'm also going to add my essential oils, I used lemon and sandalwood for this batch, to my silicone soap mold. And the reason I do that is just because the oil solution is a lot hotter than you would like it to be when you add essential oils, so I just add it into the mold and mix it as I'm pouring in the soap. Once the coconut oil is completely melted and you've mixed your lye into the water, you need to wait until both mixtures are as close to 120 degrees as possible before combining. I use a digital thermometer for this to get as close as possible before combining. I think this time I was at about 115 and 125, and so I went ahead and combined. Then I used my immersion blender to mix the solutions together, and this took about 12 to 13 minutes before it started to trace. Tracing is when the liquid is thick enough that when you lift your instrument out of the liquid, it leaves kind of like a trail behind. Like you see here, it's sort of thick, kind of like a pudding consistency. And now it's ready to add into our soap mold. So I'm just going to pour my soap solution into the soap mold and then combine the essential oils into it. I'm just kind of spreading the essential oils around the bottom to more equally distribute them throughout the soap. So I'm going to pour the soap mixture into the soap mold. Once it's topped off, I'm going to tap it on the counter to kind of get out any air bubbles that might be in the soap. And then I've decided I'm going to add some oats to the top of this soap mixture because I like the exfoliating quality that they add, as well as the nutrients for your skin. It just makes for a really nice bar of soap, and it also looks pretty cool. So now that the soap mold is full, I'm just going to clean up the edges. I'm going to tap out the bubbles, and then I'm going to add any kind of toppings that I want. This time I'm using oats. Sometimes I use coffee if I want like a more extreme exfoliation. You can use rose petals or any other kind of dried herbs that you might like. And I'm also going to sort of pat them down into the soap so that they aren't just sitting on top. Otherwise you'll end up with oats everywhere. So you want to kind of push them down into the soap so that they really stick. Once you've finished your soap, you're going to put it in a safe place overnight. You are going to tuck it in with just a regular bath towel to keep it warm so that you don't have the formation of what's called soda ash on the outside of your soap. If you do make soap and have soda ash, it'll appear as a white powder on the outside of the soap. It's completely harmless. It's just a cosmetic flaw in the soap that some people are trepidatious about, but it really doesn't affect the quality of your soap at all. It just means that the outside of your soap cooled too fast and the inside didn't cool as fast. So here's my soap all tucked in the next morning, and now it's time to cut it. I'm going to remove it carefully from the mold. I'm putting it on parchment paper just because it's easier to clean up this way. And then I'm going to take a knife, or I have a soap knife, and I'm going to cut it up with the soap knife. So here I am just like squeezing the mold to loosen the brick of soap that I created. So you might have to peel up the sides. It is going to be a little bit greasy because it is still processing. But once you get it out of the mold, you can cut it into whatever size bars that you want. I did some big bars and some little bars because I have some samples to send out. And then you are going to put it all into a container in a safe place for about 2 weeks to cure. And the reason that you do this is to make sure that 100% of the lye has been processed within your soap. You don't want to have any kind of lye left in it because you can cause burns to the skin. So you just leave it somewhere for 2 weeks, preferably like a dark, dry area of your house. Just forget about it for about 2 weeks. And then once it's ready to use, it'll be a lot harder than it is when we're cutting it. So here I'm just cutting some half bars for some of the things I have to send out. But that's how you make coconut oil soap. This is just some video of me cutting it because I think it's really satisfying. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments section. I will put a list of all the materials used in the description box below, as well as my email. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or if you're interested in buying some of my soap. All right, you guys, don't forget to wash your hands, wear your masks, be kind to yourselves and each other, and don't forget that you are all precious, sacred, beloved beings. I'll see you next time.